welcome back to Girl Dad. I'm Abigail Frechette,
And I'm Peter Frechette.
and today we're talking about true crime.
Oh, very
Another spooky
exciting.
episode for you guys.
This is, it's kind of spooky. Hey, try crime, spooky. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
crime spooky.
Yeah, absolutely. Those who are having trouble with my spooky lighting because so many people were watching us on YouTube. Um, Still in New York, very
Yeah,
excited about it. We have seen Abby, even though we do not record in the same place,
yeah.
so it might seem a little odd.
It's just
But
easier this way.
yes, yes, it is. But Abby gave us those flowers when we arrived, which was very nice.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you're
Abby.
welcome. And for those of you watching, you may notice I have on my television behind me some very spooky 90s Halloween street scenes that I thought would be fun for the episode. They will be, I think they're like rotating through, so that's kind of fun.
I'll try to keep
Um,
an eye on that for you.
yeah, let me know if there's any really good ones. I think they're like from different movies and TV shows, which is kind of fun. Um, Just as the past couple episodes have had, we're going to give a little bit of a content warning. I don't think we're going to go quite as into specifics with this one. This will be a quicker episode. Um, but
And
just
maybe we'll hear more from Dad.
yeah, we will hear more from Dad, I think. You're a true crime guy.
Absolutely. I am a big true crime fan.
Um, but we're gonna start off with some of the more like general stuff, and then we'll go into some of our more personal connections to true crime. Um, but yeah, there will be, some discussion of some dark stuff. So if you don't want to listen to it, don't worry, skip this one. Um, but yeah,
Well, if you don't want dark stuff, skip this month.
yeah. Well, I will say the next two episodes for our spooky listeners will be a little lighter in the
Yeah, the
Halloween
last two. Woo-hoo.
spooky
Woo-hoo.
genre. But they'll be fun. So let's talk about the where did true crime kind of as an entertainment form come from? So it's
I
been
don't know,
around.
Abby. Why don't you tell
I'll
us?
let you know. I'll let you know. So it's been around for a while, but true crime became significantly popular in the mid 1960s, propelled by Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, which was released in 1965, and it was a landmark nonfiction novel. However, interest in true crime stories has a much longer history with roots in 16th century pamphlets and ballads about crime. Do you know any of those? Do you want to give us a
I really would
rendition?
like to chime in with a couple of verses, but I think I'll pass at this time because,
Oh,
my throat's been bothering me a little bit, so
yeah,
I don't think anybody wants to hear me sing.
that's
So
such a
I'll
bummer.
skip some of those dirges that I
Yeah,
might chime in on.
mixtape coming soon though.
Yeah, we'll get to work on
Okay,
that. Maybe post some links, or we'll see
yeah.
about that.
Um, the genre,
And I'm curious though. I'm wondering
yeah.
about you have these whether those were actually true crime or whether it was sort of mythological stories that I'm not expecting you to answer this. I'm just
Hmm.
thinking about, word of mouth getting around and the way stories would have passed at the time.
Yeah,
Whether they were actually, I mean, they're probably based on an actual event, but
right.
then sort of,
Legend kind of
yeah,
like
thank
how
you.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you. My
yeah.
vocabulary is a little down today,
That's
so
good.
thank you
You're
so
good.
much. I appreciate that.
That's why we do it together.
Yes, Sleepy
Um,
Hollow, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
yeah.
There you
I mean,
go.
I think that's like, I mean, Jack the Ripper, right? It's like that he was real. That really happened, but he was turned into like a larger than life creature kind of, right? It was like oh, this is like way bigger kind of than just a guy who's killing prostitutes. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay, that actually as a crime is kind of a fairly not to like downplay it, but that's a fairly traditional serial killer move. As like guy, that's like
Yeah,
that's an easy move for a serial killer to do because it's an
yeah,
easy way to
yeah,
find people and it's an easy way to kill people. Um, but it is also like you can kill more people that way, so it does become more of like a legendary feat, I guess, is what you're kind
yeah.
of talking about. And yeah, when you start like kind of I think that's something we're going to talk about too when we talk about the more like modern way this happens is like we make these people celebrities in a way, right? Like
Mm,
these criminals then are famous because they're
sure. Son of Sam and the Zodiac Killer and
but
things like
even
that.
like the in modern times I'm thinking more about people that probably wouldn't be as famous as like serial killers because like I think there's something where like some of the cult leaders we were talking about last week or these serial killers you're mentioning or like just some of the more outlandish people there's an unavoidability of them becoming famous because of the acts they committed. But someone like Karen Reed, for example, becoming famous is a little less likely because it's like, okay, her crime wasn't super drastic. It's more like the surrounding.
Excuse me.
Oh,
What what crime?
well, yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. It's like it's more of a it's like the surrounding media about it. It makes the whole thing like much bigger and it's like that I think that builds it up to something bigger. So in a similar way, if you're having songs written about a crime that you commit or don't commit, um
Is there a Karen
then
Reed song? Did I miss this?
no, but I'm saying in past times, the
Yes,
ballads that we were
yes,
talking about, like
yes.
that
Well,
kind of
you
like,
got into don't commit, so I was like, okay,
well,
uh,
I
just
mean, those
accused.
people, who do we know? Who do we know? Like,
Yeah,
we don't know.
yeah,
But yeah, I think there's similarities there about like the legend kind of. Now it's just a podcast instead of a ballad.
yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
And I should mention that I I threw out the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but um, just shout out to the Greenwood Cemetery and the
Mm.
Revolutionary Spirits tour that we took in Brooklyn, because part of that discussion was about the legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman, which came from, I believe, a British soldier story. I don't know. That's what the guy was telling us. I don't
Yeah,
remember exactly, but that was my recollection is that there was
I
something to
believe
do with
that.
that. So you all can dig into that yourselves. You know, we don't want to do all the work for you. So anyway, that's what reminded me. I wanted to get that shout out
You
on
had a
the
lot of
Revolutionary
whiskey
Spirits
after that,
tour.
to be fair.
You know, check out the Fort Hamilton distillery.
Yeah.
Uh, Very fun. Good trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so
Sorry,
the
didn't
kind
mean to
of
digress.
no, you're good, you're good. So the kind of modern popularity of true crime, it started with Truman Capote and the In Cold Blood, and then crime rates were really rising in the 1970s. And as we talked about with the cults and the satanic panic and things, people were paying a lot more attention to these things. And then it's just been amplified a lot more with the internet and streaming services and really podcasts like Serial in the 2010s really brought attention to a lot of these kind of true crime stories and how interested people are in this beyond just like a news story.
Yes.
Like you okay, you kind of froze there on me for a sec.
No, sorry, I just hadn't moved. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I
okay.
was just
Okay,
focusing. I
okay.
was focusing. You did not appear to have completed a thought,
Oh,
so I was
sorry,
just letting you
sorry.
go. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so there's a few reasons that these stories are deemed popular. Um, as someone who is a gender studies major, I actually wrote an essay in college on why women in particular are interested in true crime. It was like we were doing a unit on this, and it was, um, we kind of, there were a lot of conclusions along the lines of that it helps you to kind of process trauma and emotions and fear from a distance, and also kind of creates a level of control and protection around like these concepts. So it's like, okay, here's what I would do in this scenario. Here's like, if this person approached me, this is what I would do. And even though, you're not fight and flight, all those kinds of things aren't actually happening to you, it kind of creates these semi-false ideas that you are making yourself safer and more prepared. And I think that's a really like psychologically interesting idea of why a lot of women are interested in true crime. I think there's other things as well, but I think that that's just an interesting element of all of this. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I just I I guess no, not really. I just think that I guess it's that you're defining it for women. I don't know, would it apply for men as well? Um, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just because it tends to be a genre that there was a fascination, especially when I was in school, which was like the 2010s. Like, women were very drawn, like a lot of the podcasts were led by women, and a lot of the listeners of the, serial is, the listeners tend to lean towards what, like, it's just people were fascinated. Why are there so many women that listen to true crime? Like, that was kind of what we were looking at that
Okay.
moment.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I don't know, I think it's an interesting thing because I think people are always curious when women who are seen as like the daintier and softer of the two genders, if you are subscribing to the two gender, like the
Right.
dual gender system, it's like, why are they interested in something so dark like that? I think that that's like, people get confused by things like that, but I think it actually makes a lot of sense when you look at it through that lens. um but I think there's also just, people have sometimes a natural morbid curiosity, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it also depends on time. Whether you have time to delve into these things and listen to
Hmm.
podcasts, and I'm not saying that women have more time, free time than men, because they don't, but it could be that the activities that they're doing present the opportunity to listen to podcasts rather than
Sure,
sitting in boring meetings or something like that. They actually have space to do that type of thing, but I don't
sure,
want to genderize anything. So anyway,
sure. Yeah. Some other reasons that there's popularity in these things, I mean, there's an element of mystery and thriller, kind of like, you know, reading Sherlock Holmes, like a fake mystery. A lot of podcasts will kind of not tell you who the killer is, like, till the end. Like, they'll make it more of a mystery series, or they'll present it in more of a build up type of way, kind of. Um, or a thrillery kind of way. Even if you know who the killer is, it's still, there's still a amplification of the adrenaline you get by like figuring out what happened, or in turn there's like this psychological insight you're getting from, oh, maybe they'll have like a interview with the person who did it, or insight that is like previously unheard or something like that towards the end that is the same kind of level of a mystery. Like it's a reveal in a different way than a mystery is, but it's a similar kind of like energy builder that a thriller or a mystery has. Um, so that's a similar kind of reason people like things and
Yeah.
want to consume them. Um, so I think I wrote some reasons why I personally like true crime. Um, some of them are things I mentioned above, but I'm curious if you want to share some of the reasons you're interested in true crime.
Well, I mean, I've always preferred things that I think are based in reality anyway.
Hmm.
So, and I'm not necessarily, when we talk about true crime, I'm not always talking about murder,
Yeah.
but sometimes it could be something else. The two sort of, to me, there's a couple of different ways that true crime is presented, whether it's in podcasts or form or books or whatever, or TV shows. You have the true crime that you know who did it, and then you have the true crime that's like an unsolved mystery. And
Hmm.
I kind of like if that's presented well, I really like that
Yeah.
genre because it makes me think about, okay, who do I think did it?
Yeah, all
And
the
they're trying to
theories.
present all of the and they tend to make it clear that it was this person, but then the next episode they make it clear that it
Yeah.
wasn't that person. And I
Yeah.
like that I find that entertaining.
Yeah.
The ones that you already know who did it, they have to do a really good job of explaining why and giving the background as to why
Yeah.
this person and what their issues were that caused the crime in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. I think that similarly, I think that I like the kind of when I'm reading fiction, I have a hard time if it's not like based in like the way people would actually act, like the way people would actually respond to things, the way people would actually do things kind of, right? I think there's also an element of like curiosity about the way, particularly in like Western society, about the way our justice systems work and our the flaws in that. And I think that, you know, it's very interesting to look into that and see, you know, at different levels how those things work. I think there's two things for me. I'll get into one later, but I think for me, there's two things that brought me into like the true crime world. I think they're pretty basic for anyone around my age range or like in the millennial kind of age group. And I would say that's um the Making a Murderer documentary series on Netflix, which was um the guy who was like it was the he was wrongly accused of a crime, and they like you saw all these like coerced kind of tapes and how they abused the system and got like just all these things kind of used against him, and because of socioeconomic reasons, and because I think there was a son or a nephew who, you know, maybe wasn't the brightest. They also used that again. Like there were so many just different reasons that they were able to totally do whatever they wanted to this family. And I think that was kind of like a wow, okay, this is really messed up. So I think that's like a reason to like watch these things is just be interested at the different treatment of that. Um, I also think it's sometimes an interesting way to learn about history, um, because it can kind of be used as like case study of like what were like perceived attitudes at the time that this crime was being committed in a certain area of the country or the world. I recently watched um I don't know if it was a series or just a documentary about a news reporter who was killed in London, and it was just interesting to kind of see like, I didn't grow up there. I don't know this like I didn't grow up with her as my reporter, right? Like, and it was interesting to see like she was really important to these people. Like, people talked about her as if she was like another Princess Diana kind of figure, right? And so I think that that's like an interesting way to also look at true crime, as like it's a way to like see history and people's perspective on society at a given moment, because you get what people think of different groups of people, what people like, judgments on socioeconomic levels, judgment on different religious groups at times, like all that kind of stuff comes out based on like who are suspects, based on who are, all that kind
Sure.
of stuff. I think is interesting. And then for me, I do think there's an element that I do think there's like a control and preparedness element for me that is like you know I feel a little like safer knowing more about these things, of like I won't get taken advantage of, or
Yeah.
this won't happen to me.
It
Um
like becomes experiential education
yeah, yeah. And I
without
will
you actually
say,
having the experience.
yeah, I will say I think for me cults are my favorite genre per se of true crime. So like you said, it's not necessarily like all murder. There's a lot of different true crime, but I do think that's where like the kind of control and preparedness of like not getting taken advantage of in that way, I feel very like these are the signs that I am entering like a cult space, or I am entering like a super high controlled group space, and I should be wary of what I'm doing here. Um, Keep my wits about me kind of thing. But yeah. Um, the other one that I did want to mention that I think is like the other really big like millennial my age got us into true crime is BuzzFeed Unsolved, which I don't know, do you remember this at all?
No clue. No idea what you're talking
Okay,
about.
so this is like to give you reference. Do you remember the Try Guys?
You told me about them, and I
Okay,
remember a couple of things about them, but not
okay.
really.
So this was like the same time
Period.
period of
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And it was two guys who worked for BuzzFeed who would talk. One of them was like really into true crime, and he would do, well, I guess they had two, they would do like ghost stories and then they would do like true crime ones. I was more into the true crime ones. But he would like break down a true crime story, and then he was telling it to the other guy, and then they would kind of like go either investigate the area, but they were all unsolved. And then they would present theories. He would present theories to one guy, and he would kind of give him his feedback of what he thought it was. And I liked that because it was fun to be like, this is what I think happened. And
Yeah,
it was also fun because some of the episodes were very much like, okay, it's pretty clear that this is just unsolved because like they couldn't arrest that guy, not because it's unsolved. And other ones were like, oh, I really don't know what happened
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And my favorite of those was have you heard of DB Cooper?
Of course.
Okay, yeah, that was like a
But
really fun.
that's, I mean, DB Cooper was my era as far
Oh
as when
yeah,
it happened.
yeah. They did like a ton of, they spanned a large era.
Right.
Yeah. But though that was like one of my favorites. I remember them
Like what
talking about.
happened to DB Cooper, right? He
Yeah.
was the guy who jumped off the airplane
Yeah.
with the bag of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't know
And nobody knows what happened to him.
what happened to him. Yeah.
Great story. Look it up, people, if you haven't heard it. That's
Yeah.
there's been a lot of things on DB Cooper, but that's
I
how you were
think
introduced to him was through BuzzFeed
yeah.
Unsolved. Okay.
Yeah. And
That
I
makes
think
sense.
it might be solved now or maybe not.
Possibly.
I don't
Possibly.
know. I'm
You
not
know,
sure.
you all have that thing in your hand. You can look it up to see if the DB
Yeah.
Cooper's been
Yeah.
solved. But that format reminds me of a podcast that Phoebe introduced me to, which is Morbid,
Yeah.
and the idea of one host explaining it to the other.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is, I do think in Morbid, it's one woman who's a an autopsy technician
I think
who
that's yeah.
explains it to her friend who's a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And it's very good. I like it. It's not, those are not unsolved for the most part. And then some
No.
of them are well-known serial killer type things, and some
Yeah.
of them are, and that spans hundreds of years of true crime that
Oh
they
yeah.
get into, which is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one.
um, I'm going to just jump ahead here, I think, but I
Yeah.
don't know. But anticipating the question of how did I first get interested in true crime,
Yeah.
and the first true crime that I can ever remember having a lot of interest for me was actually the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And I don't know that if you're how familiar you are with Lincoln's assassination, but
I
it's
mean,
well, everyone
I
knows.
think I'm pretty familiar.
Yeah, well, everyone knows about John Wilkes Booth killing Lincoln, but
I've been there.
at the same time that Booth was killing Lincoln, the vice president was
Yeah.
being assassinated, and I believe the Secretary of State was being attacked. And so this was this vast conspiracy trying to just take over the whole government. And then there was a conspiracy theory that it was getting down to the Secretary of War who would be the next in line, and he was the only one who wasn't attacked. So was he the one, the mastermind of the whole
Yeah.
thing? Um, so I loved that
The
story
conspiracy.
and the conspiracy aspect of it, and because there was clearly a conspiracy, but you didn't. But then it was the conspiracy theory that was laid on top of the actual conspiracy. I see a
Right.
conspiracy as a group of things that work together.
Right.
And that clearly happened because of
Yeah.
the multiple attacks that took place that night. But who was the conspiracy theory was bringing in, you know, the whole Pizzagate aspect of it, and
Yeah.
trying to, you know, pin it on somebody else, and
Yeah.
just assume there was a mastermind who was creating it. So
Do you know how I know about all of that?
I do not.
Because that's like the whole backstory premise for um National Treasure's Book of Secrets, like the second one,
Oh, really?
is that like the yeah, that's like the intro scene of that
Oh,
second
okay.
movie is like
Okay.
that the conspiracy. I think that I don't know if they get into like the theory of who is behind it, but it is the conspiracy of like the multiple men going to kill all of the
Yeah.
different heads of different government kind of.
Well, aren't all of the, well, I guess there's only two National Treasure movies, the
Yeah.
third in potential production, but aren't they all sort of one giant conspiracy theory or two giant conspiracy theories that
Yeah.
are made into movies, and we have to figure out if that's, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
taking something and making it appear that it could all be tied together.
Yeah. I think it's
So,
true. Could all
um,
be true. Is there a map
So
on the back of the Declaration of Independence? Probably.
uh,
Why
I
not?
yeah, why not? Absolutely. Um,
Seems like something they would do.
well, yeah, and so anyway, I
Um,
I also wanted to because I'm really trying to contribute more today. So
yeah,
um one other, and the reason I said that they're not all murder is another true crime that has always interested me since it
good
happened
one.
was the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum heist, the art theft, unsolved mystery.
Also
Um,
on BuzzFeed Unsolved.
well, there you go.
Yeah,
And something that can, you can find all sorts of things about the mob and who did their
yeah,
podcasts galore about that, who might have actually done that, and waiting for the deathbed confession that's going to show up.
yeah.
And yeah, here you go. I do think that things are, it's possible and maybe things are showing up. I don't know.
I have no
Um,
idea.
but that you also reminded me of one that I don't know that you're aware of, but when you were talking about the what was the thing that you were talking about that was reflected in the news and that you could get society history out of it was a woman I think that you were talking about and
Oh, the British reporter.
right.
Yeah,
And but that reminded me of the Charles Stewart case. Are you familiar with that at all?
I don't think
In
so.
Boston. So Charles Stewart was a married man, and his wife was killed, and um, he was there when it happened, and it was perpetrated by a couple of black men, and it was just a horrible, horrible crime, and um, and this was in Boston in the 90s, and the uproar was huge, and the whole racial thing aspect of it,
Yeah,
and lo and behold, there were no black men. Charles Stewart killed his wife himself,
yeah,
and eventually that came to be known. It's right up there with the Central Park Five,
yeah,
and and how he who should not be named had so much to do
yeah,
with just assuming that they were guilty, and
yeah.
um, you know, and I don't want to get into too much of he who should not be named, but if you just want to talk about true crime, we could just look at the administration. But
But
anyway,
there's another one that I watched fairly recently. Oh God, I don't remember her name, but this one was really disturbing because it was a daughter. And the documentary is called like it's what her name did. And it's oh God, what is her I don't know. It's like what Jennifer did or something like that.
uh,
And she killed her parents and like staged it as like pe people broke into her house, and I think she claimed it was like Hispanic men or something
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
and like it was like a racially motivated
sure. Just play
crime.
on
And
people's fears
yeah, I get yeah, and it
and
was
racism, and see where you can go with it.
absolutely, absolutely. And it was, oh my God, it was, and what she did to her parents was really scary. Like, oh, it was
Uh,
awful.
well, this is uplifting, and I really
Yeah,
want to thank you
sorry.
for that. No, it's fine. Back to my origin theory
Yes.
stories, podcast wise, because the stories that I've mentioned so far were not,
Yeah,
did
those are
not,
ones that you like
they did not
probably
establish
felt
any kind of a
from,
great interest in true crime for me. It was
yeah,
just those were true crimes that stood out to me.
yeah,
But then I got into true crime, I think, with Serial,
hmm
and the Adnan Syed story, which
hmm
was just a brilliant production of research and interviews, and just so thorough that I found it fascinating. Um, and they clearly had the producers of that series clearly had a purpose in mind, a story that they had developed and decided was what happened. And they
Hmm.
tried to be, I feel that they tried to be as um, centrist as possible, but they
Hmm.
clearly had a bias. And eventually, he got off. And then he went back to jail. And then he got off again, and he went back to jail. But just the story itself was just so well produced that that got me interested in true crime podcasts. And um, and then your sister would occasionally send me things like from Morbid.
Yeah.
Um, One of my favorites was Counterclock, a series, which again, very well thought out, very well produced, but I believe the first one I know was unsolved, and I think they all have been like that, just trying to find who committed these cold case crimes, basically.
Yeah.
And I find those fascinating. And then the other, Ashley Flowers, Crime Junkie. I never really got into Crime Junkie, but she would just show up on random things. I would hear her and I'd be like, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
And now she has written novels
Yeah.
and I like her books. I mean, quick read, straightforward,
Yeah.
but kind of fun. So um, that's that's my true crime history right there. There you go.
Yeah.
Laying it out
I
for you.
don't I don't really have a full history. I have a couple like ones I've been, I guess, interested in more recently, and then I do have one moment that I feel like I just remember watching that and being like, "Holy shit, I can't believe that just happened." Did you watch The Jinx?
No.
Okay, so The Jinx is a documentary series about this really wealthy New York guy who
Is this the one
killed,
that ended up in the bathroom?
yeah. So he killed his wife, he killed other people, all this horrible guy, awful person. Um, got away with it. Like ran away, just totally fine. But they got him, he let them follow him around. He let them interview him. And then he has his mic on. He goes to the bathroom and he's just like talking and he confesses and he doesn't know it's on camera. And it is one of the craziest, I feel like, I think it's crazy as like a true crime moment because it's one of the moments where like the true crime genre of like podcasters and documentarians and those things like matter to the story of the subject because like they are the reason it got recorded. Like without them, he would still be
Right,
unconfessed for, right?
right.
Like it would never have happened. Um, a similar vein, like I think it's interesting um the do you know the staircase, that one? So that's one where it's I guess it's like kind of people have different opinions on what happened. I fully think he murdered his wife on the staircase. Just yeah, that's what I think happened.
This
But
isn't about
like
he who shall not be named.
what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. It's I forget what the family's name is. I apologize. I'm really bad. I don't know why. I can't remember any of the people unless they're recent of the names that these people I don't know any of their names. Um, but if you know the staircase, you know who I'm talking about. But you should watch the staircase doc. There's so much. I'm surprised you haven't heard of this because there's like an HBO documentary series, there's a Netflix documentary series, there's millions of podcasts, and then there's like a series with like a acted series. But the documentarians, one of like the women like fell in love with the guy. Like so it that's also like weird. And it's interesting because they in the acted show, like the scripted show, they show that as part of the, which I think is really cool. But I think that's interesting too because it like shows how the
It's all reality is merging with,
yeah,
yeah.
how the documentarians can be skewed when they start like interacting with the actual people.
And then
I
the
think it's
AI
interesting.
people come in and it's just really
Well,
confusing.
but the last one we'll talk about together, I think. But the one that I've been interested, I think, in most recently, which has been really disturbing and has actually kind of combined a little bit of what we talked about last week and more of the disturbing side of true crime. And actually, what we talked a little bit about the first week is the Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke case. Do you know anything about this?
No.
So this is a new direction of um issue I see coming up with like child labor laws actually. And so Ruby Franke is was a like family vlogger. She is Mormon. And their family channel was 8 passengers. Like they have 8 kids, I think, or 6 kids, and there's 8 of that. I don't fully remember what the 8 is. But Jody Hildebrandt is a ex therapist who was like removed. I don't know what like disbarring of a therapist is called, but whatever that equivalent of therapy that happened to her for like malpractice. And she basically started kind of like a culty version of like therapy, and she got Ruby Franke involved, which then, because Ruby had this online following with YouTube, um, you know, Jody was like, "Oh, great, because I can build off of that, and we can have the platform, right, to like talk to other people." And it's just like horrible abuse towards children disguised as like parenting advice. But I mean, all this stuff goes into like whether family vlogging is like also really bad. Like there's a lot of crossover here with in terms of like okay, you've got the cult level, and then if Ruby was like predisposed to some of this stuff because of some of the per se more high demand aspects of the Mormon religion, and then you have some of the aspects of with like family vlogging, if that's a problem because you're making money off of like the work of children, and then are you having more children to because like having babies makes you more money on YouTube, and then your children don't have work hours and there's no like trust fund set up for them. Like it's all this stuff. Like there's so much in the like child working laws with YouTube that's really interesting that I'm not going to get into
It's
right
just
now, but
reminding me
just
of
know
John
that's
and Kate
fascinating.
plus 8 or whatever it
Oh,
was.
absolutely. There's like similarities there, but just know this ended with Ruby two or three of Ruby's children fully being held captive at Jody's house, visibly physically abused, having escaped to a neighbor's house, having not been fed properly, and having like physical signs on their body of abuse. And these are
And this is why
little,
we put the warning in at the beginning of today's
yes.
show.
Ruby and Jody are now both in prison. Um, Ruby's daughter has written a book that I think is really good. I listened to it. But I highly recommend if you're like interested in this case at all. There's a YouTube channel called Viral Virtue with Jordan McKay. Jordan is a she's a therapist or she's training to become a therapist, but they're both ex-Mormons. And their content is like really good and specifically like surrounding this case. Like they've done a lot of like great coverage that goes deeper than a lot of like the documentaries have gone on to like the ways that um the family was like kind of pre set up for this style of abuse, and also talking about how like some of the stuff with like the YouTube side of things, which I think is interesting, because those are two spaces that they also occupy that like the documentary doesn't really occupy, because the documentary is more like they take it from more of like a traditional true crime angle, which is still like serious and good, but yeah, so check that out. And then finally, we've got to talk about our girl,
Jeez.
Karen Reed.
Well, you know, could do a whole episode on that, but
For sure.
yes, I don't know who doesn't know about Karen Reed, but maybe that's just because we are in the belly of the beast. And as the incident occurred in Canton, Massachusetts, about a half a mile from where you started your life.
Yeah.
So, uh, so yeah, just
If you're
so
interested in how the criminal justice system in Massachusetts works, though, this is a case for you.
yeah, let's not put the entire state's
No.
justice system on the line, but Canton and maybe the county in which it is in, which it's in southeastern Massachusetts. I don't know, but yes, it's a very interesting, uh, unending story. I
Yeah.
believe they were going to make a movie about it, the never-ending story, if they would, if the name hadn't already been taken, because
Oh, wait,
it just
really?
keeps going. What, the never-ending story? That's a movie.
No, wait, were they really
No, I
gonna make
was
a movie
kidding. I
about
was
it?
making a
Oh, oh,
joke.
oh,
You seem to, things are a little flat today, but
oh.
I do have a
Sorry.
sense of humor.
Well, if they made a movie about it, I wouldn't be shocked. So
Oh,
that's,
have they not? I think there's probably one in the works.
I don't know.
They certainly have had more than their share of documentaries about it and podcasts digging into it and Turtle
Yeah.
Boy, and it's just there's just too much to get into, I think, at this point. But
Well, it's interesting to
both
me too
bars are
because
fun.
it's
So
the I feel like this one is also, it's more been the trial that has been like it.
well, the trial exposed the shoddiness of the law enforcement,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
and possibly the shoddiness of the entire Justice Department. But
Yeah.
so, it's one of these things, and that is the perfect fodder for true crime fans, because there's plenty to choose from either direction. You
Yeah.
can go with, oh yeah, she definitely did it. There's no question. She's drunk and ran him down. Or, oh, she didn't do it. He went in the house. And when he went in the house, they beat him up. And what about the dog? And
What about the
the swimming
dog?
pool. Come
I have
on.
so many questions
That
about the
carpeting
dog.
in the basement. Why'd they get rid of that? They sold the house. Come on. So yeah,
Where is the
it's
dog?
yeah, well, up on a farm, with Ross's dog from Friends.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was for Tracy.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
All right. Well, on that note,
yes,
we'll
always
leave
I
you.
got to end on a high note. Karen
Yeah.
Reed is a high note. That's it.
You
Keep
didn't do it. She didn't do it.
civil trial, and keep the civil trial in your head. It's happening now.
Have you read In Cold Blood?
I don't believe I've read any. I may have,
Okay.
but I did see the Truman Capote series,
Oh,
which was interesting,
oh, that was
I would
bad.
say.
That was
Um,
bad. You can say it was
so
bad.
okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
Oh, I mean, it was disturbing, but it was
At
sad.
first, it was going to be really good, I thought, and then it,
It was sad. It was very sad. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
yeah. Well,
Um,
thanks for joining us, guys. A little
yes,
quick one for you.
not really that quick, but
Oh, no, it
okay.
wasn't. I thought it was going to be quick. Sorry, we
Uh,
lied.
all right.
I lied.
Well, I
Um,
participated more. I stretched it out.
well,
I'm sure it was neat.
if you have any true crime recommendations for us, please send them our way. Sorry, I didn't
Absolutely.
remember anybody's name.
That's okay.
Really bad on
That's,
me.
you know, people will figure it out. You know the staircase and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's ways to find it.
Maybe it's Jessica, what Jessica did. Whatever.
Uh, isn't that Let's Scare Jessica to Death? That was a movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't
it
know. It's
scared the heck
Jennifer's
out of me.
Body. That's a
That's
movie.
different. Let's Scare
Yeah.
Jessica to Death was a movie I saw when I was about 12 or 13, and we rode our bikes to the movie theater and then slept out in the theater. And oh God, the
You
barn at our
slept in.
house. No, the barn
Oh,
at our house, which was an old summer theater. So it was the theater.
oh,
And
okay.
we slept out there and after watching Let's Scare Jessica to Death. And
Were you scared to death?
well, clearly not to death, but oof, that
Oh,
was a little bit, yeah.
sorry about that.
Anyway, thanks for
All right.
joining us. That was a little brief foray down memory lane. So thanks. Thank you so much for joining us. Any suggestions you have, girldadpcast@gmail.com. Always open, always taking messages.
And we'll talk to you next week. Bye, Dad.
Hi, girl. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the episode, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, rate us, and leave a review.